If you've ever wondered where ordinances come from, then this is the podcast you want to listen to. Or maybe you're someone who wants to propose a new ordinance for your city. Stay tuned. I'm going to take you through the process on this podcast. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Coker. I'm the mayor of the city of Mulberry, Georgia. We're a city in northeastern Gwinnett County, and today I'm going to be talking about city ordinances, what they are, where they come from, and just generally the process of how ordinances work. So, city ordinances are basically the laws of a city. So they're the laws and the regulations that a city passes. Now, different cities have different forms or different types of government as to how their ordinances get passed. In the city of Mulberry, we have a council and a mayor that pass and approve city ordinances. And so those ordinances are basically just a list of various regulations, various things that the city will enforce, and it maintains the quality of life in that particular city. And so there's a few people that city ordinances affect. First, as I mentioned, you have the mayor and council. They're the ones that basically will approve or deny the ordinances. Sometimes they make amendments to change an ordinance before it's adopted. So they're the ones that go through and actually do the approval process. The second is city staff. So city staff have a very important job when it comes to ordinances. Often, the council members, you might have one or two council members that are really passionate about a specific issue. And so they will instruct the city staff to move forward with doing research or drafting a proposed ordinance. And so the city staff will then do the research to determine whether or not the ordinance is necessary. And then through the assistance of an attorney or counsel, they'll often draft an ordinance that goes along with that concern. And then what they'll do is they'll present that ordinance to the city council for adoption. Now, in some states, like Georgia, typically you have to have 2 reads of an ordinances. So what that means is you have to present the ordinance to the public 2 times so that they have notice of it before it can be adopted. Now, it doesn't apply for all types of ordinance or all types of actions that a city council may take, but for many ordinances, it requires what's called 2 reads at 2 separate meetings. And so you're going to see, or if you come to a city council meeting, you'll hear us say, this is the first read of an ordinance, or you might hear us say, this is the second read of an ordinance. Sometimes cities do it in such a way where they call it new business versus old business. If it's new business, that's just a fancy way of saying that it's the first read of the ordinance. If it's old business, that means it's the second read. Well, when the city staff is drafting these ordinances, how do they come up with the language or the terms that are going to be in that ordinance? And I'm going to let you in and fill you in on a city-wide secret here, is that nobody in any city in the state of Georgia, or even I would argue probably nationwide, starts from scratch. Now, of course, somebody at some point started from scratch, but the reality is cities love to borrow ordinances that worked for other cities. So let's say in the city of Mulberry, we wanted to pass an ordinance that every mailbox had to be painted orange. Okay, I'm just going to make up something. What the city staff typically does is they look at other cities where there's ordinances that have been passed that mailboxes have to be painted orange. They'll review those ordinances. They'll maybe make some minor tweaks or changes. They'll do a study to see how well that ordinance performed in that other city. And they'll obviously change it to fit our particular city environment. But then they'll adopt basically that other city's ordinances and present it to the council for adoption. And so that's what happens in most situations. And so when I started this podcast, I told you if you're somebody who wants to present an ordinance for approval with the city council, the best thing you can do is present another city's ordinance to city staff. Because think about it, it just makes their life that much easier. They don't have to start from scratch. They don't have to draft the entire ordinance basically from the very beginning. And so what they're able to do is they're able to then take that other city's ordinance, tailor it to our city, and then present it to the mayor and the council for approval. And so that is one way, if you are really passionate about something, if you have an issue that you think your city needs to adopt, find another city that has a similar ordinance and schedule a meeting with city staff and sit down and talk to them about that ordinance, or schedule a meeting with one of your local elected council members and say, hey, here's a proposed ordinance that I brought for you that's worked in Snellville or Lilburn or Norcross or wherever it may be, and present that ordinance and say, hey, this is working very well over here. I think that the city of Mulberry, in our example, needs to adopt this ordinance. And so city staff will take that. Again, they'll tailor it to what fits us, and then they'll present it to the mayor and council. Now, you're also going to want to get at least 1 to 2 of your city council members on board to discussing the ordinance at a meeting, because one, the ordinance needs to be put on the agenda, and so that it can be discussed, and the public can know that that discussion point is up and coming. But two, you have to have a motion to discuss that ordinance, and then a second. And so you have to have at least 2 council members that believe that this is enough of an issue that it needs to be something that's discussed at the city council meeting. That's something you also want to do, is you want to talk to those 2 city council members. Make sure that you have enough support that this is an ordinance that they would be willing to consider for the city. And so when you go and present that ordinance to staff and then they bring it back to council, the process, as I explained before, is there's typically 2 reads of that ordinance at the city council meeting. And so once it's time on that agenda item for that ordinance to come up, if you have the first read, typically the city attorney or the city manager will stand up and will discuss the ordinance or do the first read. And then sometimes there's a public comment period on the first read, sometimes there's not. And then they'll sit down. And then you'll wait for the next meeting. There'll be the second read. Again, sometimes there'll be a public comment, sometimes there's not. And so if you're somebody who is passionate about a particular ordinance, I would encourage you to show up to a meeting. Check those agendas, see what ordinances are coming up, and come to city council meetings. State your case, state why we should be in for or against a particular ordinance. Because just like all my fellow city council members, I mean, we're not experts at everything, right? So I'm an attorney by trade. So yes, I know a little bit about the law and about different things like that, but I may not know all the details about everything related to the issue that you're passionate about. You might be the expert on that. And so I would encourage you to come and speak up or talk to the city council members and really advocate for issues you care about. And I'll give you a perfectly good example. So I had a student from Georgia State University who lives in the city of Mulberry approach me about an initiative that she was really passionate about. And that's bee-friendly initiatives. So she did a phenomenal job. She came with her research. She educated me about the importance of honeybees and just the effect that they have on farming and our food supply and how critical they are, and how sometimes certain pesticides that are used can ultimately cause issues with extermination regarding this bee population. And so this young lady was very, very passionate about that, which I had a lot of respect for. And that she continued to do these things and to present to us these ordinances that we should adopt. And so the city's looking at these items and looking at adopting these particular ordinances about bee-friendly initiatives. So once an ordinance has been presented to the city council and it's been approved by a majority of the city council members, then ultimately it becomes a part of the city's official code. And then ultimately it's enforceable. And any violations of that ordinance are then considered a code enforcement violation for the city. And so that gives you a basic understanding of municipal ordinances, what they are, how they get passed, and how you might be able to be someone to cause and affect change in your city if there's a specific ordinance that you want passed. If you live in the city of Mulberry and you're really passionate about this and there's an ordinance that you really care about, obviously reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to talk to you a little bit more about it. But if you like getting these updates and kind of learning more about the inside scoop of what really happens in the city and at City Hall, like and subscribe to this podcast, keep listening, and you'll ultimately learn more and more about the inner workings of the city of Mulberry. So until next time, thanks for listening.